It's late June 2026. The ice in the Barents Sea is retreating faster than climate scientists had predicted, and faster than Russia's northern fleet would like. Because what's opening beneath this ice isn't a new shipping lane, it's a bottleneck. And NATO has just put the lid on it. The Kola Peninsula is the heart of Russia's submarine power. Here, in Gadjievo and Vidyayevo, are based the Yasin M-class strategic missile carriers and attack submarines, the quietest and most dangerous submarines Russia has underwater. Their mission, in the event of a serious conflict, is to pass undetected through the Barents Sea, slip into the Norwegian Sea, and enter the operational space of the North Atlantic, from where they can threaten supply lines between North America and Europe. This route has a historical name, the GIUK Gap, better known as the GIUK Gap, and its northern extension, the Barents Approach. For decades, this has been NATO's main headache, and it is here, at this very bottleneck, that the alliance is now building a defense. He's setting a trap, because in modern submarine warfare, you don't need to sink a submarine to disable it. It's enough to deprive it of its only weapon, anonymity. Let's look at how exactly this trap works, because the devil is in the range. Let's start with the air. NATO's primary anti-submarine warfare tool in this region is the P-8A Poseidon, a patrol aircraft based on a commercial Boeing 737. It carries several dozen sonobuoys, a magnetometer, a search radar, and Mark 54 torpedoes. One such aircraft can cover a search area comparable to a small European country in a single sortie. And this isn't a metaphor, but a direct consequence of its speed and patrol range. The main base for these aircraft in the Norwegian Arctic is Evenes, north of the Arctic Circle. It is from here that Norway's 333rd Squadron, reinforced by American and now Finnish patrol sorties, monitors the entire submarine route from the Kola Peninsula. The distance from Evenes to the entrance to the Barents Sea is literally a single hop for an aircraft with such a long range. But aerial patrols are just the surface. Another system operates underwater. Hydroacoustic stations and underwater sensors deployed along deployment routes, plus dual-use infrastructure, such as the deepwater port near Tromsø, where American nuclear submarines regularly dock and are serviced. An infrequent but strategically significant visit that speaks volumes about the region's priorities. Combine this with the orbital component, satellite surveillance, which in 2026 operates virtually without interruption, thanks to the growing number of commercial and military reconnaissance satellites, and you get not isolated monitoring points, but a continuous network. Technology is only half the story. The second half is the command architecture, which transforms disparate sensors into a unified surveillance chain. Since February 2026, NATO's Operation Arctic Sentry has been operational, a framework initiative combining air, maritime, and land surveillance across the High North under a single command at Joint Headquarters in Norfolk. In October 2025, a Joint Air Operations Center opened in Bodø, Norway, NATO's third such center, specifically designed to cover Scandinavia, the Baltic, the North Atlantic, and the Barents Sea. And in June 2026, the final element was added to this architecture. NATO deployed Forward Land Forces Finland, under Swedish command, to Finland. This means that the entire perimeter from the Kola Peninsula to the Baltic is now integrated into a single surveillance and response system, with no gaps or blind spots where national sectors of responsibility intersect. The accession of Finland and Sweden to NATO itself added 1,340 kilometers of new border with Russia to the alliance, and much of this border runs precisely where the Northern Fleet previously had room to maneuver without outside observation. Now it's gone. What does this mean in practice for the commander of a Russian submarine departing Gadjievo? It means that the moment the submarine leaves its base, it is already under the surveillance of at least one, and often several, systems simultaneously. Coastal hydroacoustic posts, P-8 patrol flights, satellite surface monitoring, and, where ice conditions permit, visual surveillance of NATO vessels. To exit the Barents Sea into the Norwegian Sea undetected, a submarine must either physically evade all of these layers at once, or rely on acoustic stealth so advanced that it trumps the advances in Western signal processing systems in recent years. It's not impossible, but it's mathematically much more difficult than it was 10 years ago, when the Barents Sea was covered in ice for most of the year, and the satellite constellation was significantly smaller, and that is the meaning of the Arctic Bolt. The point isn't to physically block the enemy fleet's exit by force. It's to make the very attempt at covert passage a statistically losing proposition. So much so that any commander sending a submarine to sea must factor in a high probability of detection from the very first minute of the mission. To summarize, the Arctic barrier has been closed, not by a single device, not by a single base, but by the sum of intersecting radii, aircraft, satellites, hydroacoustics, and port infrastructure, which together transform the exit from the Barents Sea into a corridor of constant surveillance. The strategic effect here is cynical and extremely simple. The Northern Fleet no longer needs to fear being destroyed upon leaving its base. It needs to fear simply being seen. And this fact alone is enough to devalue decades of investment in submarine fleet stealth. Because in 21st century trench warfare, the winner isn't the one with the most autonomous cruisers underwater. The winner is the one who controls the geographic gateway to the ocean, with sensors, air bases, and satellite constellations capable of monitoring every mile of the exit. The ice melts, routes open up, but the bottleneck remains a bottleneck, and now there's a sentry on it who never sleeps.